In the dark, distant reaches of the galaxy, where the light of stars flickers like the last breath of dying embers, there exists a faction that embodies the chilling embrace of inevitability and the relentless march of time. This faction is the Necrons, ancient beings of metal and malevolence, whose history is steeped in a cruel transformation and a relentless quest for dominance over the cosmos. Their tale begins long before the rise of humanity, during an epoch when the galaxy was alive with the vibrant energies of the Old Ones, a race of highly advanced beings who shaped the universe with their profound knowledge and psychic might. In those primordial times, the Necrons were not the cold, emotionless entities they are now. They were once known as the Necrontiae, a race of flesh and bone, living on a world bathed in the harsh light of a dying star. Their existence was plagued by suffering and a relentless pursuit of longevity. The Necrontiae were a proud and ambitious people, but their lives were short, often filled with pain and despair. Their skin bore the scars of radiation, and their bodies were frail compared to the more enduring races of the galaxy. In their desperation, they turned to the Old Ones, seeking knowledge and technology that could grant them the key to immortality. But the Old Ones, in their arrogance and disdain for the Necrontiae, rebuffed their pleas. They viewed the Necrontiae as inferior, a race unworthy of their attention. This rejection fueled a deep-seated hatred within the Necrontiae, igniting a burning desire for vengeance against the Old Ones. As their desperation grew, so too did their ambition. They began to explore dark and forbidden technologies, delving into the mysteries of the universe that lay beyond the understanding of even the Old Ones. It was during this time of despair that the Necrontiae encountered the Ketan, godlike entities of pure energy, who roamed the galaxy, feeding on the life force of stars and civilizations. The Ketan, drawn to the Necrontiae's desperation and ambition, offered them a pact. In exchange for their servitude, the Ketan would grant them the immortality they so desperately sought. The Necrontiae, blinded by their desire for eternal life, accepted the bargain, sealing their fate and the fate of their race. The transformation from Necrontiae to Necron was both horrific and awe-inspiring. The Ketan, having consumed the souls of the Necrontiae, forged new bodies for them out of living metal, a substance that could withstand the ravages of time and the vicissitudes of war. This new form, while granting them immortality, stripped them of their flesh and emotion, leaving them as cold, calculating machines, forever bound to the will of the Ketan. With their new bodies, the Necrons turned their gaze upon the galaxy, emboldened by their newfound powers. They became the harbingers of death, wielding weapons of unimaginable destruction and commanding legions of robotic warriors. Under the influence of the Ketan, they waged a brutal war against the Old Ones, decimating their civilizations and consuming their very essence. The galaxy trembled at the approach of the Necron legions, whose cold, unyielding march brought about untold devastation. However, the Ketan, in their insatiable hunger, sought to consume the Necron race itself. The Necrons, realizing the treachery of their former gods, turned against the Ketan, initiating a cataclysmic conflict known as the War in Heaven. The Necrons, now fully embracing their metallic forms, allied with their former enemies in a desperate bid for survival. This unprecedented alliance allowed them to overthrow the Ketan, shattering their godlike forms into shards that scattered across the galaxy. With the Ketan defeated, the Necrons faced a new challenge, the remnants of the Old Ones, who had retreated to the far corners of the galaxy, regrouping and plotting their revenge. The Necrons, hungry for conquest, sought to reclaim their dominion over the stars. They established their dynasties, ruling over vast empires and enslaving countless races, all while their once flesh forms continued to grow colder and more detached. Yet the victory was not without its costs. The Necrons, now a fractured and divided race, were left in a state of dormancy. The vast tomb worlds, once bustling with life and ambition, became silent crypts, their inhabitants lost in a deep slumber, awaiting the day when they would rise again to reclaim their place in the galaxy. For millennia, they lay dormant, their minds locked away in a state of stasis as the galaxy evolved around them. But the cosmos is a fickle mistress, and as the ages turned, the Necron tomb worlds began to awaken, one by one. The Great Awakening, as it would come to be known, was marked by the stirring of ancient legions, the reactivation of long-dormant war machines, and the resurgence of their once mighty dynasties. The galaxy, now dominated by new powers such as the Imperium of Man, was unprepared for the return of the Necrons. Their reawakening was not just a resurgence of power, it was a harbinger of doom for all who stood in their way. As the Necrons emerged from their slumber, they found a galaxy that had changed beyond recognition. The Imperium of Man, a sprawling empire forged in the fires of war, now held dominion over countless worlds. The Eldar, remnants of the once great civilization that had thrived before the Age of Strife, struggled to maintain their dwindling existence. The Orcs, brutish and chaotic, roamed freely, spreading destruction wherever they went. The Necrons, with their long-forgotten technologies and relentless determination, sought to reclaim what was once theirs. The Necron dynasties reawakened, each led by a powerful overlord who commanded legions of warriors clad in gleaming green armor. Their goals were as varied as their personalities, but each was united by a singular desire: to restore their ancient glory and eliminate any who dared to oppose them. Among the most notable of these dynasties was the Sortek dynasty, led by the cunning and relentless overlord Sarek, who sought to re-establish the Necrons' dominion over the galaxy and exact vengeance upon the Imperium for their perceived transgressions. Sarek, known as the Silent King, was a figure of both awe and dread. His intellect was unmatched, and his strategies were as intricate as they were lethal. He understood that the galaxy had changed, and to conquer it again, he would need to adapt. The Silent King rallied his forces, uniting the scattered remnants of the Necron race under a single banner. With ruthless efficiency, he initiated campaigns across the galaxy, targeting key Imperial worlds and striking fear into the hearts of his enemies. As the Necrons surged forth, their legions of immortals, warriors, and the terrifying Triarch Praetorians marched in unison, their metallic bodies glinting in the starlight. The Necron armies were a sight to behold, their formations precise and their tactics honed over millennia of warfare. The very ground trembled beneath their feet as they advanced, and the air crackled with the energy of their weapons, which unleashed devastating barrages of destructive fire. The Imperium, caught off guard by the Necron resurgence, struggled to mount a defense. The Astra Militarum, brave but outmatched, faced waves of Necron warriors that seemed to rise from the earth itself, as if the very dead had returned to reclaim their dominion. The Necron forces were relentless, their cold logic driving them forward as they systematically dismantled Imperial defenses. Entire regiments were lost in the blink of an eye, their soldiers falling before the withering fire of the Necron guns. Amidst the chaos of battle, the Necrons unleashed their most fearsome weapon, the monolith. These massive, floating citadels of living metal were capable of teleporting Necron forces across the battlefield, allowing them to flank and encircle their enemies with terrifying efficiency. From within these great machines, the Necron leaders directed their forces with cold precision, their voices echoing through the minds of their warriors, instilling an absolute dedication to their cause. Yet, the Necrons were not without their vulnerabilities. The very transformation that had granted them immortality had also stripped them of their humanity. The loss of emotion and empathy had left them cold and calculating. But it also meant that they struggled to understand the motivations of their enemies. As they clashed with the Imperium, they found themselves facing foes that fought not just for survival, but for ideals, faith, and a sense of purpose that the Necrons could no longer comprehend. The Imperium, though shaken, rallied its forces. Heroes emerged from the chaos, champions who embodied the spirit of humanity. Among them was Commander Dante of the Blood Angels, who understood that the Necrons were a force that could not be underestimated. He gathered his forces, equipping them with the best technology and strategies available, determined to stem the tide of the Necron advance. Dante's forces clashed with the Necrons in a series of brutal engagements, each side vying for dominance. The battlefield became a deadly dance, with the Necrons employing their advanced technology and tactics against the fervent resolve of the Imperium's defenders. The echoes of war reverberated through the stars as the galaxy bore witness to this clash of titans. In the midst of this turmoil, the Necrons began to grapple with their own identity. As they awoke from their slumber, whispers of their distant past echoed through their minds. Memories of their former lives as Necrontier flickered like shadows, teasing them with glimpses of what they had sacrificed. The cold logic that had defined them began to waver, and some Necrons found themselves questioning the very nature of their existence. Among the ranks of the Necrons, a faction began to emerge that sought to break free from the shackles of their past. Led by a rebellious overlord named Trazyn the Infinite, this faction sought to preserve the legacy of the Necrontier, embracing their flesh and blood heritage rather than hiding it behind cold, unfeeling metal. Trazyn believed that the Necrons could evolve, that they could reclaim their lost emotions and become more than mere machines of war. Trazyn's vision was radical, challenging the very core of Necron society. He argued that to truly reclaim their place in the galaxy, the Necrons must not only conquer, but also understand their past. His followers began to seek out ancient artifacts and relics of their former lives, hoping to unlock the secrets of their history and perhaps even restore a semblance of what they had lost. This internal struggle within the Necron race mirrored the broader conflict playing out across the galaxy. The Great Awakening was not just a resurgence of power. It was a reckoning, a moment of reflection that forced the Necrons to confront their history and their future. As they clashed with the Imperium and other factions, they were not just fighting for dominance, they were also fighting for their own souls. The battles raged on, and the Necrons pressed their advantage. As they advanced deeper into Imperial territories, they incurred into Inchiral territory, the ancient relics, untethered ancient relics and artifacts, the hats, the past, the cast of the past. These discoveries further fueled the internal conflict among the Necrons, as some began to embrace their former identity, while others clung to the cold logic that fallen to the cold logic that had guided them for millennia. The Imperium, recognizing the threat posed by the Necrons, began to employ desperate measures. They sought alliances with other races, including the Eldar and even the Orcs, in a bid to combat the metal menace that threatened to consume the galaxy. This unexpected collaboration brought together forces that had long been at odds, united by a common enemy. As the war escalated, the galaxy was plunged into chaos. The Necrons, relentless and unyielding, continued their push forward, while the Imperium, fueled by desperation and determination, fought tooth and nail to defend their territory. The clash of ideals, purpose, and ambition created a maelstrom that threatened to engulf all in its path. In the heart of this conflict, the Necrons began to realize that their pursuit of domination was not without consequences. The more they fought, the more they were forced to confront the echoes of their past. Their transformation had granted them power, but it had also robbed them of their essence. As they battled against the living, they were confronted with the very emotions they had forsaken: hope, fear, love, and loss. The Great Awakening had set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the fate of the Necron race. As they fought for the galaxy, they were also fighting for their own redemption. The lines between conqueror and victim began to blur, and the Necrons found themselves at a crossroads. Would they continue down the path of cold ambition, or would they seek a new destiny, one that embraced the complexity of existence? As the war raged on, it became clear that the galaxy was on the brink of a new era. The Necrons, with their ancient technology and indomitable will, had the power to reshape the cosmos. But in doing so, they would have to confront their own legacy of pain, loss, and a relentless pursuit of power. The stage was set for a confrontation that would resonate throughout the ages. The Necrons, led by their overlords, prepared to unleash their full might upon the galaxy. The Imperium, bolstered by newfound alliances, steeled itself for a showdown that would determine the fate of countless worlds. As the stars bore witness to this clash of titans, the echoes of the past would guide the future, shaping the destinies of both the Necrons and the galaxy itself. Amidst the chaos, Trazin's faction began to garner support. Many Necrons were drawn to his vision of reclamation and understanding, believing that they could become more than just tools of war. They began to explore the ancient tombs and ruins of their long-lost civilization, unearthing artifacts imbued with the memories of their former lives. Each relic they discovered sparked a flicker of awareness, a reminder of the emotions that once defined them. However, this awakening was not without its risks. The traditionalists within the Necron ranks viewed Trazin's ideology with suspicion, fearing that it would weaken their resolve and distract them from their ultimate goal of conquest. They believed that the Necron identity was one of power, cold logic, and unyielding strength. This ideological rift threatened to fracture the already tenuous unity among the Necron dynasties. As tensions mounted, the Imperium continued to fortify its defenses, aware that the Necrons were not just a mechanical horde. They were a complex society, wrestling with its own identity. The battles grew increasingly brutal, each side trying to outwit the other. The Necrons, with their advanced technology, often struck with precision, aiming to cripple the Imperium's defenses. Yet the Imperium, driven by sheer desperation and a fierce will to survive, fought back with a ferocity that surprised even the most seasoned Necron commanders. Among the Imperial forces, a new hero emerged, Inquisitor Eisenhorn. Known for his unyielding resolve and cunning intellect, he recognized the need to understand the Necrons beyond their metallic exteriors. As Eisenhorn delved deeper into the history of the Necrons, he began to piece together the puzzle of their transformation and the implications of their awakening. He realized that if the Imperium could exploit the internal conflicts within the Necron ranks, they might have a chance to turn the tide of war. Eisenhorn sought out allies among the Eldar, who possessed ancient knowledge of the Necrons and their history. The Eldar, long aware of the Necrons' past, were initially hesitant to engage with the Imperium. However, the threat posed by the Necrons' resurgence forced them to reconsider. They understood that the Necrons were not simply machines. They were once a proud race, and their current struggle held echoes of the past that could not be ignored. The alliance formed slowly, built on mutual understanding and a shared desire to preserve the galaxy from the Necron onslaught. As they convened, Eisenhorn and the Eldar seers began to craft strategies that would exploit the Necron internal conflicts. They recognized that if they could sow discord among the Necron factions, they might be able to weaken their resolve and halt their advance. This newfound collaboration led to a series of covert operations aimed at disrupting Necron supply lines and targeting key figures within their ranks. The Eldar, with their mastery of stealth and agility, executed precision strikes that caught the Necrons off guard. Meanwhile, Eisenhorn worked tirelessly to gather intelligence, hoping to exploit the ideological rift that had formed within Necron society. As the conflict escalated, Trazinus' faction gained momentum. More Necrons began to embrace his vision, seeking to reconnect with their lost identities. They delved into the ancient relics and artifacts, each discovery igniting a spark of emotion that began to spread like wildfire among their ranks. The once unyielding discipline of the Necron legions began to waver as questions of purpose and identity took root in their minds. Meanwhile, the traditionalists, led by Overlord Zarek, grew increasingly concerned. They viewed Trazian's ideology as a direct threat to their power and the legacy of the Necrons. The tension reached a boiling point when Zarek called for a council of overlords, urging them to unite against the perceived traitors within their ranks. This council would determine the fate of their society, and the stakes had never been higher. The council convened in the heart of a grand tomb world, a place steeped in the history of the Necrons. As the overlords gathered, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Zarek, with his commanding presence, laid out his vision for the future, a return to their original purpose, a reclamation of power that would solidify the Necron dominion over the galaxy. He argued that emotion and sentimentality would only lead to ruin. Trazian, however, stood in stark contrast to Zarek. He championed the notion that the Necrons could evolve, that they could learn from their past and embrace their humanity, even if it was but a shadow of what it once was. He passionately articulated the potential for a new identity, one that melded the strengths of their past with the power of their current forms. The debate raged on, with overlords taking sides, each fiercely defending their positions. As the argument escalated, it became clear that the Necrons were at a crossroads. The council was not merely a discussion of strategy, it was a battle for the soul of their race. The outcome could determine whether they would continue as cold, unfeeling conquerors or strive for something greater. Outside the council chamber, the galaxy held its breath. The Imperium, aware of the gathering storm, prepared for the inevitable clash that would follow. Eisenhorn and the Elder had successfully disrupted several Necron operations, but the larger conflict loomed on the horizon. The Necrons, emboldened by their awakening in the ideological rift, were on the brink of a civil war that could either strengthen or fracture their race. As the council reached its climax, a sudden alarm blared throughout the tomb world. An Imperial strike force had breached their defenses, launching a surprise attack aimed at disrupting the council and sowing chaos among the Necron ranks. The sound of battle echoed through the ancient halls as the Necron warriors sprang into action, torn between their duty to defend and their internal struggles. In the midst of the chaos, Trazian saw an opportunity. He quickly rallied his supporters, urging them to seize the moment and break free from the constraints of their past. This was their chance to carve out a new destiny, to prove that they were more than mere machines of war. They charged into the fray, clashing with the Imperial forces while simultaneously confronting their fellow Necrons who remained loyal to the traditionalist ideology. The battlefield became a cacophony of metal and energy as the Necron legions collided with the Astra Militarum. The once unified front began to splinter, with factions fighting not just against the Imperium but also amongst themselves. The echoes of battle rang out as warriors grappled with the weight of their choices, their identities hanging in the balance. As the dust settled, it became clear that the conflict had irrevocably changed the Necron race. The Great Awakening was no longer just a resurgence. It had become a crucible for their very existence. The struggle for identity, purpose, and meaning had ignited a fire within them that could not be extinguished. In the aftermath of the battle, the Necrons faced a choice. Would they embrace the path of conquest, following Zarek's vision of unwavering power? Or would they take Trazian's route, seeking to reclaim their lost heritage and evolve into something more? The galaxy watched as the Necrons grappled with their destiny, the echoes of their past reverberating through the stars. In the end, the Necrons were nuts and pea machines of war. They once ate civilization, forever bound to the stars and the echoes of their pasts. As they stood on the precipice of a new era, the future was unwritten, and the fate of the Necrons, as well as the galaxy, hung, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. As the stars bore witness to this clash of titans, the Necrons were faced with the ultimate question: what does it truly mean to exist? Would they forge a new path, one that embraced the complexity of existence, or would they succumb to the cold embrace of their own design? The choice lay before them, and the consequences would ripple through the galaxy, shaping the destinies of both the Necrons and their adversaries for eons to come. The tale of the Necrons is one of transformation, a reflection of the struggle between ambition and identity, power and purpose. As they navigate the turbulent waters of their awakening, the echoes of their past will guide them, reminding them that even in the coldest of forms, the spark of life and emotion can still flicker, waiting for the right moment to ignite once more.